All right, we're going to take a nice deep dive into the footwork strategy and technique of this point between Brett and Gary. Get your notepads out because there's a lot to discuss.
Come on. Those are big shots. I saw you coming from a mile away.
Now, this video footage is actually courtesy of Brett here. He owns Tennis Tunes on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe to his awesome channel. His link is in the description below. So right off the bat, Brett serves and volleys. And one of the things you've got to be careful about when you go to the net, Brett, is that you have a great ready position. Check out where you're holding on to your racket. You're holding on to the racket with your left hand, but on the head of the racket. As you're going forward, Brett, your racket should be vertical. It should be straight up and down in front of you. Let me show you what this should look like. Now, this is just me volleying, Brett, but look at my racket. First off, my left hand is on the throat of the racket, not the head of the racket. And notice that you could balance a coin on the top frame. At the moment, Brett, your racket is down to your left side, strings are down, and you're holding on to the head of the racket. Your left hand should be on the throat. What you'll notice is that you have to actually put your left hand, which you eventually do, on to the throat of the racket as its own separate move. So you're having to put the left hand on the throat of the racket, and then you volley. I would rather you just start that way as you run forward. I'm not even sure if you're aware that you're doing this, but the racket should be vertical, right? So I'll kind of draw it. The racket should look like this. Up in front of you, you should be able to balance a coin on the racket, on the frame of the racket, strings facing left and right, and your left hand should be on the throat. Now, another thing, and Gary, one thing, if you do notice that Brett is coming forward to the net, and for all of you watching, you want your returns to land on the service line when you play someone who serves and volleys. And you can do that by hitting the ball a little softer than maybe you normally do, or if you want to add spin to bring the ball down. But ideally, you try to make them hit low volleys so the ball has to pop up, and then you can come in and go for the pass on the second shot you hit as the returner. So let's look at this volley, Brett. So one thing about hitting a volley, especially around no man's land and the service line, is where you really want to be moving through this volley. There's a simple rule when it comes to hitting a volley. 90% of the time, and probably more than that, the last foot that hits the ground should be the foot that's on the side where you're volleying. So this is a backhand volley. So this is your left side. That means the last foot that hits the ground should be your left foot. The last foot that hits the ground prior to contact should be the foot on the side where you're contacting. So you're hitting on the left side of your body, but watch what you do. You step and you plant your right foot before you hit the ball on the left side. And that forces you to do what's called a karaoke step, where you actually have your left foot go behind you. You can see how you really have your back turned to your target. You're way over rotated. And it just makes you then slower to go to the net and to close off the net if needed on your second volley. Ideally, you want to come in, you want to split step around the time your opponent hits the ball, which you can see is around the 60-foot line here. So it's just past the 60-foot line based on the speed of your serve and how fast you run. You're going to split step just after. You have a little bit of a kind of like a flow step right there where your left foot doesn't hit the ground, but it'd be better if you have both feet hit the ground at the same time. But you want to adjust your feet so that you might take a little cha-cha steps here, like a little bit of cha-cha steps, left, right, just to organize your feet. The last step on this, my friend, should have been with your left foot. That allows you to move through the ball seamlessly. Watch the pros as they move through their volleys in this transition area going to the net. The last foot that hits the ground is the foot on the side where they contact. So you hit, and you hit a good volley. You know, you're trying to volley it obviously into the open court. And you can see again, like your back is to your opponent, to your target, as you're trying to like turn your head and swivel your head to be able to see. We really shouldn't see your chest here. We should never see the front of your shirt. You should look like this the whole time. We should just see this. We should never see the red on the front of your shirt, because you shouldn't be turning your back to your opponent and facing. I mean, if you kind of look where your toes are, both toes are pointing backward. That's how much you've turned. And it's all because once you plant this right foot, now your left foot can't come around this way. It has to do a carioca because every action has an equal and opposite. So the rack is going forward on the front side of you, so your foot has to go forward on the back side of you, which is why the carioca step is occurring. So you hit a deep volley, and whenever you hit a deep volley like this and your opponent is chasing after this ball, Brett, it's critical that you do not close off the net. Do not get tight to the net, because what is he most likely going to hit? He's most likely going to hit a lob. And you want to hit an overhead off that lob. So whenever you hit a really strong shot to a corner, you want to place yourself at, wrong tool. There we go. You want to place yourself right on the service line. What I teach is put your toes on the service line. Now, it's a little counterintuitive because you're thinking, wait a minute, I hit a really good shot. Why am I not attacking? But you can see if you attack, it just makes it easier for his lob to go over your head. So when you hit a really strong shot and get your opponent in trouble, you actually right now would want to back up to the service line. Think of when it's fourth down, where's the punt returner stand, right? You actually know the play, you know what's going to happen, and you stand far away from them so you can handle the punt, right? So you don't want to be way too close. You don't want to be standing where the linebackers are, right? And then it's too easy for the punt to go over your head. So the counterintuitive part of this is if you hit a volley that's not that great and allows Geary to come inside the baseline, counterintuitively, that's when you actually close off the net. Just like a hockey goalie, ice hockey, field hockey, soccer keeper, they actually move forward to cover more angle. And they come out of the goal to become bigger. And that makes it easier then for you to bisect where they can hit the ball. So you hit this deep shot into the corner. Geary is in major trouble having to lob that ball up. And you'll notice you're inside the service line, and you should have been at the service line because now you're moving backward and having to hit kind of a weak overhead that you frame a little bit. You kind of hit it off the frame, not a lot of pace. And it's all because you really should have been standing here before he ever hit the ball. You would have volleyed, seen he was in major trouble, figured and assumed he was going to lob the ball up, and you would actually take 2 steps back to put your toes on the service line. Then if he hits a weak ball, you can always come forward. If he hits a ground stroke, you can always come forward. But this way, if he hits a really strong lob and you need to move back, you're in better position and you'll be able to get more weight on that ball and be able to put that ball away for a winner. But you do a great job hitting, this is called a scissor kick overhead, where you jump off the back foot and you land on the front foot. So you can see his left foot is the front foot. So he jumps off the back foot and lands on the front foot behind him. So a scissor kick overhead. And then this is when Geary really does kind of take a stranglehold on the point. But Geary, if you watch this, you make one mistake that costs you the point. So right here we see Geary hit a deep shot into the corner. And Brett has told me in the comment section that he's not the biggest fan of hitting backhands, but hey, aren't we all people who would prefer to hit forehands? But Geary hits a good, strong shot. Brett, you tend to have very late racket preparation, like most recreational players. So turn your shoulders very early and get the racket behind you early. That doesn't mean fast. It just means early. So leaving early for work is different than driving fast to work. So don't feel like you got to be fast. Just turn your shoulders continuously early and get the racket back early. You could have taken this ball actually on the rise. But you tend to delay. You can see you're moving backward and the racket's delaying. You're not taking it back. You really could have taken the ball right now on the rise if you had an early shoulder turn and early racket prep. But as you're moving backward, you'll notice, and this is really smart on Geary's part, Geary is coming in. Geary is attacking, right? So Brett was just at the net, but he was too close. So then when Geary lobbed, all of a sudden the tables turned, and now Geary hits the ball with Brett moving backward. Geary hits a strong shot to the corner, And now Geary starts moving forward, which is smart because there are 3 times to go to the net in tennis: serve and volley, when you get a short ball, and when you get your opponent in trouble. And I shouldn't say go to the net, but there are 3 times to go forward toward the net, I'll say. That's a more specifically that, or like that's a more realistic way of saying it, more accurate way of saying it. When you were coming forward though, Geary, you made one fatal mistake, and it was you didn't split step. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the audio here, and you're going to be able to hear when Brett hits the ball. And as soon as he hits the ball, that's going to be then when you should be split stepping. Specifically, you want to split step 0.2 to 0.25 seconds after your opponent makes contact with the ball. But what I'm going to do is when we hear Brett hit the ball, I'm going to push stop on the video. And at that moment, Geary, we should see you split stepping. Let's see what happens. All right, right there. We just heard Brett hit the ball. In fact, there's the ball right there. That is around 0.2 seconds after Brett hit the ball. Let's see what Geary is doing. Geary is not split stepping. Since there was no split step, what ends up happening, Geary, is you can't change direction and the ball goes by you. It's like going too fast around the corner on a road, right? So if you've ever driven too fast around a corner, you know you take a wide turn. What you have to do is not think, oh, I've got to get in really fast. You take 2 or 3 steps and then you got to split step because that's about the time he's going to make contact with the ball. If your body is still moving forward as he's hitting the ball, what if he hits the ball over here, Geary? Then you have to make a wide turn to try to get over there. But if you come in, split step, and you immediately are able to make a lateral move to get to that ball, I promise you, you could have hit a half volley, kept it in front of you if you wanted to, or if he's way off the court and you feel like you could hit it cross court. You just got to make sure you end the point if you hit cross court on that. But excuse me, the fact that you did not split step is the reason why that ball went past you. So here's Rendy Liu versus Marat Safin, practicing at the UCLA tennis courts. Here's a serve and volley, right? And he wins the point. But let's look at his footwork. He serves, and it is about 3 steps and then split steps. So watch. There's step number 1. When you are serving and volleying, when you land out of the serve, that's step number 1. Then step 2, then step 3, and then watch his split step. Boom. Both feet hit the ground at the same time. 1, 2, 3, split step. And let's look at the timing of the split step. So there's the contact right there. And let's see when the landing is. Boom, perfect. There's the landing, and look at that. 0.21 seconds. You should land your feet in the split step around 0.2 to 0.25 seconds after your opponent makes contact. Since there's a delay in our reaction time, right? We don't react the moment something happens. There's a delay. What we actually want to do is delay the footwork and the split step so that our feet are hitting the ground when our brain reacts. And that way, the moment we hit the ground, we can move and we can go wherever we need to. And you can see the same thing. There's the contact and there's the landing of the split step just after. That's what you want to copy. And here's another example of the split step when going to the net. This is at the Stanford tennis courts, Stanford versus UC Berkeley. Watch the guy in all black. Watch him. He realizes his opponent's in trouble, so he's attacking, but watch the split step. See that move? You want to make that move every time your opponent hits. That way, if the ball goes like this, the ball goes like this, you're running forward, but then you can make very sharp turns wherever you need to. If you continue to run, then you can't get to where you need to. You just are running as your opponent hits, and you can't change direction. So let's watch this. There's the contact. There's the split, and then he's able to change direction beautifully. And this is what it looks like when you don't split step. This is actually the same match between the same 2 opponents. And the UC Berkeley here player on this side, watch him running forward and watch the Stanford player hit, and there's no split step by the player in white. And look how he cannot change direction. In fact, if you notice, just think about this. He's running in. The ball is going to land right there. He's not even able to change direction. Watch this. He never even goes to the right side of the court. He's never even able to go over to the right side of the court. Watch. He never gets to the right side of the court because he can't change direction because he's still running. You don't want to be running as your opponent hits, because what if you're running in the wrong direction? You want to be stationary, and that's the split step. But he's still running and he can't change direction, and that's why that ball easily goes by him. If you want to learn the exact same strategies that the pros are using to help them win more matches, then check out the Singles Playbook by Fuzzy Yellow Balls. Over 50 pages of strategy after strategy, all based on the style of opponent you play against. Simply put your phone or tablet up over the QR code, and up pops a short video from Will Hamilton over at Fuzzy Yellow Balls showing you how to use each strategy. To get it, simply use my link. It's in the description. I'm also going to pin it in the first comment. So click right there to check out the Fuzzy Yellow Balls Singles Playbook so you can start winning more matches. Go out and film yourself playing. Review your strategy, footwork, technique. If you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.